everybody, and welcome to this week's video where, as promised, I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate salted caramel cake. I mean, look at it, it's absolutely beautiful. It is packed full of oozy floozy caramel. But before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about the brand new Crumbs and Doilies cake kit. And yes, it is a cake kit, a 6-layered rainbow cake. So in your kit, you're going to get everything you need to create this absolute beauty. So you're going to get 3 tins, so you're going to do it in 2 batches. You're going to get 6 colorings, the vanilla, even a cake board, some sprinkles, and a box to store your cake in as well. It's an absolute hit. So please head over to CupcakeJemma.com to get yours. But for now, let's get on and make this a beauty. Okay, so for our caramel cake, salted caramel cake should I say, we're going to make a syrup sponge. And I think this is possibly my favourite sponge that we do here at Crumbs and Doilies. It's really, really easy. You don't need too many ingredients and you don't need a machine or anything. We're just going to whisk it by hand. So first of all, we need to make the syrup part of this. And in my saucepan here, I've got some butter and I'm going to add some dark brown sugar along with some golden syrup, which is this stuff here, and it looks so delicious. But you can use corn syrup. I know, especially if you're in the US, golden syrup is really hard to find. And I'm going to give you the quantities for this in the description box below with a few options for you guys, because I am doing this as a rectangle, but it works great for a round cake as well. So yeah, I'll give you some options. We're now going to heat this on a very low heat. We're not trying to boil this. You don't want to caramelize anything. We just want it to melt and combine. So once that's completely melted, the sugar will have dissolved as well, so it's nice and smooth. We're going to leave it to cool just for a second and come over here and we're going to whisk together some milk and some eggs. So I've got whole milk here because I always prefer whole milk and it has a much kind of fuller flavour for your bakes. Along with 3 large free-range eggs, which as usual I'm cracking into a separate bowl to make sure we don't get any shell in. Now we can add our syrup mixture. So I'm going to very slowly pour this in whilst whisking at the same time. Okay, and now all we have left to add is some flour. I'm using self-raising flour because it's got some raising agent in it already, but if you've only got plain flour, I'll let you know what you need to add to it. Slightly regretting my size of bowl. I'm hoping that this is all going to fit. I thought this was a big bowl. Right, so I'm going to sift my flour in 2 halves. This is ridiculous. Who knew that I still don't know what size bowl to use after 10 years? Right, so put your other half of your flour in and again just whisk it together to combine it. Okay, so once it's all smooth, it is done and it's looking awesome, and it starts to bubble because the raising agent has started to activate. So we need to get this in the oven pretty quick. So now we just need to pour it into our tins. And I'm making an awful mess here, but that's okay. Right, so just gonna shuffle those around. And then we're going to pop them in the oven at 170 degrees C for around 25 minutes. We're going to test them by poking a skewer into each tin. If it comes out clean, it's ready. If not, just a couple more minutes in the oven. Okay, so whilst the cakes are in the oven baking away, we can make our salted caramel buttercream, which of course we're going to need some salted caramel, which I have made earlier, and I've let it cool down completely and it's gone lovely and thick like this. So salted caramel is very easy to make, but there's a few things you just need to watch out for. Obviously it's very, very hot, so please be very careful when you're making it and don't walk away whilst it's going, because you'll leave it there and it will burn and it'll be horrible kind of mess to deal with. So be very careful, but all you need to do is start with 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, put them both into a saucepan and onto a hob. Now turn your hob onto a medium to high heat and let it bubble away. Be really careful not to stir your syrup because it will begin to crystallize. If it is crystallizing, your hob might be a little bit low, so just turn it up a notch. Leave it to caramelize, and when it's a nice even dark amber color, take it off the heat and stir in a little bit of double cream. Stir really quickly and let those bubbles subside before adding the rest of your double cream. Keep stirring, and when it's all nice and smooth, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla. And now stir both of those through, and that's it, your caramel made. Pour it into a heat-proof bowl, and it's done. And now that it's cooled, it's ready to use. So let's start making our buttercream. As usual, we've got some soft unsalted butter here, but this is salted buttercream, so if you've only got salted butter, you know, that's gonna be fine. So the most important thing is that it's soft, and we're gonna pop that into our stand mixer first. And if you don't have a stand mixer, you can very, very easily make buttercream with an electric hand whisk, no problem at all. So we're going to start by beating this on a medium to high speed. We want to get this really light and fluffy. You'll see what I mean. If you just keep mixing it, it will get lighter and lighter in colour. So as you can see, it has gone really lovely and pale. So now we can start adding our icing sugar. So I've already sifted the icing sugar. Lots of icing sugars can feel very lumpy and grainy, so do make sure that you always sift it. And I'm going to add this in 2 halves, beating really well between each addition. So it's looking very fluffy and cloud-like. So now we can add our salted caramel. Now, don't add all of your caramel because we're going to need some for filling and also dripping our cake. So I'm going to go for about half. So I'm just mixing that through on the lowest speed, and now I'm just going to, just because I can't help myself, no, I'm going to give this a little taste because I want to see if I want to add more caramel or maybe a little bit more salt. Yeah, I'm going to go for a good pinch of salt into the mixer here, mix that through, and then we are done. Wow, 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 look at this. I love the colour of this buttercream. It's very kind of delicate looking, and it's going to look so amazing with our drip on top. So now my cakes are out of the oven, but we need to let them cool down completely, and then we'll come back and we will get decorating. So the sponges look absolutely delicious. They're very moist and syrupy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fill and stack and crumb coat our cake. So first of all, I need to make my cakes nice and level, and I have this nifty little cake decorating tool here, which is called a cake leveler. We've got them over at CupcakeJemma.com, along with all of the tools that you could need to do this, but you can use a bread knife as well. So what we're going to do is trim these 2 layers down. Okay, so whatever you do, do not throw away your offcuts. They are delicious to snack on. Sam, who is filming, just had a little snack on it then. I had to tell him off and wait till the end. But look at this sponge. It is so springy and moist, and it smells incredible. So they're lovely and leveled, but now I'm also just going to chop the edges off just to make the cake lovely and even and get rid of any caramelization around the outside. Now, if you are making this as a round cake, you're probably ready to get on and decorate, but I'm doing this as a rectangle, and so I need to cut these in half, but I want them to be exactly the same size. So I'm actually going to pick up one cake and put it on top of the other with this very handy little, I don't even know what it's called, cake thing. Right, and now I'm going to use my knife and I'm going to cut down the middle. So 4 layers of cake. Now I did just do that by eye, but don't worry, I'm going to neaten this all up once we've stacked it. So now we can start decorating. So I've got myself a little rectangular board here, And I've got my salted caramel buttercream and our salted caramel. So first of all, I'm going to use my little cranked palette knife here just to stick the first layer of sponge onto my board. And now we just need to start layering. So pick up your first sponge. Make sure it's in the middle of your cake board from the beginning. It's very easy to do that now. It's not so easy to do it at the end. And now we're going to put a nice big dollop of our salted caramel buttercream on top. So using your cranked palette knife, so it's got a little step in it here, which is great for cake decorating because it means your hand is lifted above the level of the cake, so you're not going to get your hand in the icing. We're going to push the icing into the cake. So you can see I've got a lot of icing on. It just means it's a lot easier to spread around without pulling up any crumbs. So push into the icing each direction. So don't worry that it's kind of splurging out the edges because we're going to use this to decorate the outside as well. Just get it nice and level, and now is the fun part. I'm going to make a little trench down the middle and fill it with caramel. So as you can see, other than the fact that it looks amazing, I haven't gone right up to the very edge so that it's not oozing out when we're trying to decorate. But now pick up your next layer of cake and very gently pop it on top, lightly to begin with, so that we can then wiggle it around to make sure it's in line. And when you're happy, just give it a little push just to secure it. And then we'll keep on filling it with caramel until we get to the very top. And when you've got to the top, what we're going to do is turn the top layer upside down because it's just going to make it a lot easier to ice. So same again, line it up and then give it a little push down. So now it's time to ice the sides, but like I said, I'm just going to make sure it's nice and even and square. So first of all, I'm going to wipe off these bits of icing splurged out the edge. And now using my serrated knife, I'm just going to trim it down very, very gently, a little bit at a time, just to make sure all the sides are nice and straight. Now when you're happy with the shape of your cake, we're going to start adding some icing. Now same rules apply when you're crumb coating a rectangle as it does to a round. You want to put lots and lots of icing on and then smooth it out. Now when it comes to the corners of your rectangle cake, they're going to be very delicate and they're going to crumble very easily. So what we're going to do is bunch all the icing towards it. So you're not pulling away from the corner, you're pushing the icing into the corner like this. So the icing's all bunching there. And now we'll just put a little bit on top before we smooth it out. Now I have my cake smoother, which is my second best cake tool in the kitchen, and we're going to smooth this icing out. So I'm actually going to start with the corners, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe upwards. and that's getting rid of some of the excess that we've got on there. And remember to have a little bit of kitchen towel or a cloth with you to wipe your scraper every single time so that you're not putting the excess back on your cake. So now I've swiped this bit up here, I'm going to smooth the side of this cake. So being very careful when you get to the corner that you're not knocking it. Stop just before you get to the end, and then we'll do the same. We're going to swipe it up. So you just want to keep doing this until you smooth all the sides of your cake, and don't rush it. Just take your time, work the corners very, very gently until you've got a nice sharp looking cake. So don't be afraid to get kind of up close and personal with your cake to make sure it is looking super sharp. And now we just need to kind of sort this top out. So we've pushed all the icing upwards, and now I'm going to actually pop back to my little palette knife just because the top of this cake is quite small, and I'm going to cut these blobs into the center. And when you're happy with your cake, spend a little bit of time just cleaning up the board, because any dried icing on there is going to be really difficult to kind of get rid of later. And now we're going to pop this in the fridge to chill so it's ready to top coat. So I'm going to put it in for around 45 minutes until it's really firm to touch. That way we can apply quite a bit of pressure when we're top coating. Done? Stop eating, Sam! Okay, so look, when we touch our crumb coated cake, it's very firm, which means it's going to be a lot easier for us to top coat, which is what we're going to do now. So I'm going to start by just bunging on some more icing, and then we'll smooth it all out again. So as you can see now, I'm using this really long, straight palette knife because I feel like you can get a really good amount of icing on there in one go. So you're not sort of having to work up here and then work at the bottom, which is going to make it a lot easier for us to be nice and kind of even all over. And I'm going for quite a thick layer of buttercream here because, I mean, icing's the best part really. So we're probably going to end up with about 4 millimeters of icing, but of course, you guys can put on as much or as little as you like. So now I've got all my icing on, I'm going to do the same thing as we did with the crumb coat by smoothing it out using my trusty cake smoother, and the same thing with the corners, just be really gentle, working with them, and just keep going over and over until you're happy with your cake. And now all that's left to do is add a caramel drip. So I put the remaining caramel into a bottle here, but you can use a piping bag, of course. It's just, this is quite handy because then you can warm it up because you want it to be a drippy consistency. So I'm going to drip all around the edges and then we'll fill the center. How much caramel can you put on one cake? The answer is a lot. Okay, stop selling. Now, if you want to leave it like this, then that is fine, but I had a little bit of buttercream left, so I've popped it in a piping bag with a rose nozzle on the end, and I'm just going to do some pretty swirls on top. And now for the finishing touch, some sprinkles, right? So I've got some gold sprinkles here, which is one of our sprinkle mixes over on CupcakeJemma.com. There's heaps out there, so go and have a look for some for yourself, but I'm gonna get these on the cake. I love it. I'm kind of a little bit sad to have to cut it, but I want to eat it. So, should we have a look inside? I knew what it was going to look like, but it doesn't make it any less exciting. Look at it. You can see our little trenches of caramel in there. And as this sort of warms up a bit, they'll all start oozing out. So shall we have a little go at this? I want a bit with the caramel in the middle. Oh, it's so good. Because the caramel's got that slightly kind of bitter taste to it because we took it so far, that's why it's nice and dark. And then the sweetness from the buttercream, and this sponge is like, I know what, you know, it kind of looks as if it would be dry, but trust me, it's the most moist sponge ever because it's like a syrup sponge, like a pudding. Oh wow. If you like caramel, you're gonna absolutely adore this cake. It's one of my favorites. It's a C&D classic here as well. And have a go at baking it in the rectangle shape because I know you guys like a challenge and you've been doing round cakes for ages now, so have a go at the rectangle. I know you're gonna ace it, and if you need any tools, then we have everything you need over on Cupcake Jemma, like all the different sized palette knives, as well as the levelers and the smoothers that I used in this video, and of course the sprinkles. And my favorite at the moment is the pool party mix because it's got flamingos and cacti in it. I mean, what's not to love about that? Anyway, keep on tagging us on Instagram because we love seeing what you guys are getting up to. I spoke to Gemma earlier on today and she was saying how great all your work is and she's just loving it. Just having a look at it while she's at home with little baby. If you want to see what she's up to with her baby, you can check out her account, which is at Mini Cupcake Diaries, so you can see her little baby as well. I'm Sally Dowles, and use hashtag CupcakeJemma so we can all see it, and we'll be back very soon, hopefully with my good friend Dane, which probably means we'll be baking some more cookies, so we'll see you then.